Wow, that's a bit too bright. Let's go on this side. Now, people snore for various reasons, and we find it somewhat a natural phenomenon. But in this video, I want to emphasize why you should beware and be aware of the snore. Coming right up. Hey y'all, Aman here, and you're watching Heart Limits, a channel that talks about everything heart-related. Now, every one of us know a particular someone, or I guess you could actually say something, that snores. You know, it could be a dog, it could be a cat, it could be your friend, it could be your partner, it could be grandpa, or even grandma. But yeah, besides the point. The thing is, whenever somebody tells us, or someone tells you that you snore, we have a tendency to actually brush it off and just deny it. You know, it's like we say, no, I don't snore. That wasn't me. I think you're just hearing things or whatever, you know. Problem with this is that by not accepting that you actually snore doesn't actually solve the problem. Now, of course, you might be asking, is snoring actually a problem? How is that a problem? So let's first define what a snore is. Now, a snore is a somewhat grunting or snorting sound that occurs whenever a person is asleep. And this sound is there because there is some form of blockage or some form of, impact on the airways of the person. So it has something to do with the nose or the throat area. And this usually occurs because of, to be honest, there's an insane number of reasons, but let's try to simplify this list, right? First, it could be your sleeping position. If you sleep more on your back, you're more prone to snore. Second, it could also be because of the position of your tongue while you sleep. You know, the tongue has a way to also affect you. Anyway, yeah. Number three, it could also just be how you are. You know, what if the tissues in your nasal area or in your throat area are, there's an excess tissue, there's this flap that creates vibrations. So yeah, it's another possibility. Number three, it could be lifestyle. You know, what if you smoke? What if you drink a lot? What if you're obese? Obesity has a way to also contribute to, snoring. And of course, you don't necessarily have to be obese. Sometimes some people just have a lot of fat on their necks. So of course, there's some form of pressure to your neck. But yeah, anyway, that's another one. Also, if you take certain medications, let's say, for instance, you take sleeping pills, for instance, they have a way to relax your throat. So because of that, it could also result of you to snore. Next, we're already at number six. Number six, it could also be your sex, or rather we could say your gender. I think, yeah, that's better to say, so it's not too, R-rated. Anyway, whatever. Your gender. If you are male, your airways are actually thinner in comparison to a female. So whenever there is some form of mucus, some form of sinus, or whatever irritation, what happens is, for a male, given that, the airways are thinner, it's easier to get blocked, so it's more prone for a male to snore, actually, in comparison to a female, right? Number seven could also be because of your age. As people age, since, we talk a lot and everything, we use our throats a lot, the throat actually becomes narrower and narrower. And as a result, makes a person snore more. So it's quite sad when you think about it that way, because if you're a male, and then since it's already narrow, and then you get older, it gets more narrower. So it's more common to see grandpa snore than grandma kind of scenario. Anyway, yes. So those are the common reasons why a person would snore. But there are times where a snore could actually be more. So let's start with 3 red flags that could actually mean it could be something more serious than what we think, right? Number 1 red flag. Let's say you snore whatever sleeping position you are in, right? And you snore really loudly, and during the day, I guess you could say, yeah, during the day, you're still quite fatigued and tired, even though you felt like you've slept a lot, right? So that's number one red flag. Number two, let's say you fall asleep at the weirdest of times. Let's say while you're talking with someone, like, hey dude, you know, I was just... You know, it could happen in that instance. Or while you're eating, like you're just happy eating and you just... Or something. Or it could, you know, whatever situation, it could be while you're driving or whatever activity that seems like your mind is active but your body just flatlines kind of scenario. Yeah, so that's number two. And number three could also be, let's say, while you're sleeping, you suddenly feel like you're choking or you're gasping for air and you just wake up all of a sudden. Yeah, so that's number three red flag. So normally, these red flags occur whenever a person has this disorder, which is actually called sleep apnea. And to be honest, this is actually something quite serious, but not that hard to actually fix, alright? Now, sleep apnea is a somewhat disorder wherein your airways collapses while you sleep. So what happens is, while you're sleeping, you actually stop breathing for about 10 to 20 seconds. And in an hour, this can happen, 5 to 10 or even more times per hour. So imagine if you sleep for 8 hours, that's quite a lot of times that you're actually not breathing. And the result is having one's breathing interrupted while one sleeps. You know, this is actually a big problem because your oxygen levels drop. Your hormones, like let's say for instance, your adrenaline surges, and not only that, as a result, your blood pressure skyrockets. So with all of these, actually increases your chances for a couple of complications. It increases your risk for cardiovascular problems, for hypertension, it increases your risk for obesity, and you can even have a heart attack and die because of this. So it is important to find out if your snore is actually in the level of the disorder of a sleep apnea. So, how do you find this out? What are the solutions? What can you do? Well, first things first is of course try to change your lifestyle, you know, try to smoke less or even stop smoking at all. Try to stay away from alcohol, try to not drink caffeinated drinks before you go to sleep. Try to change your sleeping positions. Even, you know, try to make sure that the air is not dry. Problem with dry air is that it tends to irritate your throat, so it's actually quite good if you have a humidifier, to be honest. Also, there are things that can kind of give you some clues. So let's say for instance, you snore with your mouth closed. So, I mean, how do I show that now? So something like that, right? So that means there's actually a problem with your tongue. So let's say for instance, you snore with your mouth open. That means there's actually a problem more or less with your throat area. Also, it's actually not bad to create a sleep diary. So a sleep diary is basically you write down, alright, so I tried to sleep at this hour. It took me this long to fall asleep. This is the time that I finally fell asleep. This is the time that I woke up. Oh, this was how my sleep went. Was I tired when I woke up? You know, all these things that you can kind of think of with how you slept, and you try to, you know, keep a list, and so that you be aware of what's actually happening and try to make small changes and see how you are improving to see if, you know, you're actually doing something that actually works. Alright? Also, there are also ways on how you can do it more, I guess you could say, more medically, more aggressively in some way. Now, some people, they actually use it, it's like a mouth guard kind of thing. So it kind of has to do with how your jaw is positioned and it moves around your tongue. So those things can also actually help you stop snoring. But there's actually one device that's called the CPAP. And basically, it has 100% success rate of stopping a person from snoring. But the biggest problem is that, alright, 100% success rate. So that's like amazing innovation, right? But 83% of people actually only use it. And this is mainly because of the inconvenience. You know, there's like a machine beside you, on your bedside, you could say. And there's this mask that's either on your mouth or all over your face. So some people don't really find it that comfortable. So yeah. But to be honest, that's not the only solution. Of course, that's the best solution in the market as of yet. But there's also, you know, you can do like radio frequencies, you can have laser, you can have this like implanted plastic stuff. You know, there's so many ways to go about it. It's up to you if you want to be more aggressive or you want to go, you know, the simplified, I want to change my lifestyle, I want to try to do these habits, I want to try to exercise my tongue. You know, one simple exercise is actually you put your tongue at the back side of your top teeth. Here. It's hard to talk with it. You put it up there and then you slowly move your tongue backwards. So you do that a couple of times, for about 3 minutes, and you do it maybe 3 to 5 times a day. It actually helps in some way so that your tongue is in a more appropriate position. Also, you can do the A, E, O, U scenario where, you know, those are basically vowels. So you say it loudly for about 3 minutes, you know, at least 2 times a day or something. So you go A, E, O, U, or whatever, yeah. So this is showing you. So those are some ways on how you can approach this scenario. But keep in mind that whenever a person snores, it could actually mean something more. So be careful and be aware. You know, don't just deny it and brush it off, because it could actually mean something. Alright? So, once again, Aman here, and you're watching Heart Limits. So, once again, see ya.